Be recording now. Okay. So 3, 2, 1. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the KOR universe. This time around, we have our uh, another trustee from the this time from New York City. He was elected in September 19. He is a trailblazer because he got the third highest votes in the whole 17 uh, number of participants or nominees. Of course, we were talking about Sir Dean Suba. Sir Dean, would you like to say your salutations to our viewers?
Okay, so let me begin by saying good evening, Sir Alwyn, and thank you for inviting me to have this conversation with you about our Knights of Rizal. And my greetings too to our brother Knights around the world. I hope that they and us can learn something from this conversation that we're having tonight.
Yes, sir. Let me start, sir, by asking you, how did you become a Knights of Rizal?
Over a decade ago, when Sir Joe Ramos was the chapter commander of the Knights of Rizal of New York, I was invited. But historically, though, let me tell you this. When I started my law practice in '89, in the early '90s, I had been invited to join the Knights of Rizal. But at that time, I was extremely busy with my law practice because I was starting and starting a family as well. I had one daughter at that time. And then soon after, I had my son. So I didn't really have all the time to spend on activities outside of the family. And so that's why it took me some time to become a Knight of Rizal.
Now, sir, you became a lawyer in 1984 in the Philippines. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And you graduated from the prestigious Ateneo Law School. And did you come here? Were you an immigrant here when you were taking law school in the Philippines, or did you come here after you graduated from law school?
No, when I graduated in '84, I passed the bar in '85. And that means I was sworn in 1985. And I practiced with my dad until I came over because my mother was a US citizen and I was sponsored. And I was blessed enough to be a landed immigrant. So that's how I came to this country.
Now, in the Philippines, sir, where are you from? What's your province or what's your city? If you can tell us a little bit about that, and where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in Manila. My parents are from Pampanga. So that's basically my family. My father was a lawyer. My mother was a teacher. My dad was a practicing attorney in Manila, and that's how I got interested in the field of law.
You are an only son, sir? You're an only child?
I come from a big family.
All right. So, sir, so you're used to negotiations, I guess, coming from a big family. Now, well, sir,
negotiation is always part of our practice of law, right?
Yes, that's right.
Contract negotiations to all kinds of negotiations with other attorneys.
Sir, in this Knights of Rizal, sir, can you go back a little bit on how your positions or your official experience in the Knights of Rizal in New York City chapter?
Actually, I was a chapter commander for the Knights of Rizal New York chapter for one term. That's 2 years. And
what year was this, sir?
2014 to 16. During that time, if I can take pride of this, I incorporated the New York chapter as a nonprofit organization, and also obtained the 501c3 tax exemption for the organization. Because at that time I established the Dr. Rizal awards for excellence in the field of medicine, education, arts and literature, and the youth. And so I felt then that I needed to come up with a 501c3 exemption in order for us to do some fundraising, which, by the way, we became successful for those 2 years that I was chapter commander. And we raised enough money that led me to put up the seed money for what is still a work in progress, which is a website for the Knights of Rizal that will contain the original works of Dr. Rizal. And this was funds of $500,000 that was donated to Ateneo de Manila University. And Dr. Oh boy, I missed his name now.
Ambet.
Dr. Ambet Ocampo is spearheading this project for the Knights of Rizal. But this was really a donation to the Ateneo de Manila University. At that time, we had two choices, both the University of Santo Tomas and the Ateneo de Manila University. The reason being, those two universities were Dr. Rizal attended during his study time in the Philippines.
It's curious to know, sir, that you attended both of those universities, University of Santo Tomas and Ateneo de Manila University. Not now, sir. I'm pretty sure that's not the only thing in common you have with Dr. Jose Rizal. What did you like, sir, about Dr. Jose Rizal in your research about his life and writings?
Well, I always believe, just like in my profession, defending the oppressed. You know, and Dr. Jose Rizal obviously espoused for, the so-called liberty of our countrymen during that time, was very key to me in being part of this fraternal organization. I believe strongly for that. There is a need to liberate our country and our people from the oppressors, which obviously, as you know, during that time, the Spanish regime.
Now you characterize that by you did some pro bono work in the community, especially in the New York area, and you became very active in the Knights of Rizal. Eventually, being before you became a trustee, being a regional commander. What motivated you, sir, to put your name out there and be? Was it a hard decision to consider running for the trustee position, knowing that this might be one of the first time, if not the first time, that a non-Philippine resident will be part of the regular Supreme Council?
My goal really, Sir Alvin, is to make a difference, in the lives of our fellow knights and to, our countrymen and the people in general. And so running for the Supreme Council's trustee position, I believe will be helping in one, crafting policies that will be good for the organization and for our brother knights as well around the world. And so to effectively make those policies, it is best to be in the Supreme Council. As you know, the regional commanders, which I'm one of them, did not have that policy making authority. So I believe that being in the Supreme Council will be a great help and bring to that table what I've listened to from people like you and other regional commanders that I can bring to the table of discussions with the Supreme Council trustees to make our organization a better one than what it is today.
During your term, sir, as regional commander in, I believe it was the time of Justice Puno and earlier part of the of Sir Elihu Ibanez, you were front and center in the issues about some members being expelled from the organization. In your summation, sir, how could this have been prevented? I'm sure you didn't take joy in expelling members?
Well, as you know, I drafted the resolution for the expulsion of those members. But you have to remember this. The expulsion was because of their failure to abide by the memos of the Supreme Council. So if you belong to an organization, as you know, it's just a privilege to be a member and you have to abide by the rules. And if you don't, as they did not, and form their own organization, that led to their expulsion. And so I was instrumental in drafting the resolution for the principal reason that it came during my time, although the root cause of this problem came about before I became the regional commander, and I'm sure you're aware of that. But I had to, to step up to the plate, being the regional commander at that time, that there was a needed resolution so that, the outcome was, and which is not pleasant to us as an organization, had to come.
In your tenure, starting December 1st as trustee and an archivist, sir, is there anybody in the trustee that you have personally worked with or personally know before you became a trustee?
Personally, no. The answer, no, I do not. I did not have any personal friendship with any member of the trustees of the Supreme Council.
You think, sir, that
I've known of them years past, but not personal level.
with the lingering COVID precautions and the fact that you are uh, away from the center of or in from the international headquarters, do you think, sir, that a rapport could be built uh, on how important is building a rapport, sir, with the function of the Knights of Rizal in considering that we are still in the COVID precautions, and we will be availing of the internet, of virtual media in meetings, and not being one-on-one, face-to-face?
Well, before I answer that question, Sir Alvin, let me just tell you that since your question was about the 9 trustees, I knew personally, obviously, Sir Meliton Garton of Texas, the regional commander of Central Region. As we have, as you know, we're both lawyers and we've had communications for the last 3 years since we became both regional commanders. Now, as to your question, as you know, right now, most meetings, even of corporations, are being held virtually. And so this is nothing new because of the advent of this COVID-19. And so the efficiency and the effectiveness have been tried. In fact, as you know, or maybe you don't know this, even courts now have the so-called virtual hearings. And so MCLEs, which are the continuing legal educations, are all being held virtually. And so the effectiveness and efficiency so far have been good. And so I don't see any reason why we can't have an effective and efficient meetings with the Knights of Rizal's Supreme Council of Trustees. But I don't intend to be absent in meetings. It's just that because of the quarantine restrictions in the Philippines that concern me personally, that that's keeping me from traveling to the Philippines. If that quarantine is off, I do intend to visit and attend meetings as many times as I can.
Now, I was trying to focus the question, sir, on rapport building. Obviously, there are 8 other people in the aside from Sir Meleton Garaton and yourself, who are now, if I can say, forced to gel together. People from different walks of life, not necessarily lawyers. I think there's a pharmacist there. There's politicians there. There's a historian there. There's a public official there. How do you think, is it important to in organizations, especially to be effective, not only be able to communicate, but also to have a rapport, a sense of easiness in with working together that might be hindered by this artificial electronic meetings? What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Well, let me just say this. I have had good reports with the members of the Supreme Council. We've had a number of discussions prior to the swearing in on December 1st. And so the issue of rapport is never an issue amongst us. We have a good relationship. It's a very good, harmonious relationship. And we've had exchange of ideas even through our chat room. We have talked about the, some of the plans for the Supreme Council. And so the report, despite the fact that we have not known each other for a long time, but we have seen each other during the 2019 International Assembly in Antipolo. At that time, some of them were there. And so I don't think we will have any problem in so far as report is concerned. These are good men with good intentions, and I personally believe that we will be able to work well with each other.
I'm pretty sure, sir, especially with the ultimate goal of Rizalism, bringing people together and making our organization stronger. So, sir, how was the first meeting, sir? I know that you guys had your first virtual meeting. How was the atmosphere? How did you feel? Were you? I'm sure you've been to Supreme Council meetings as a guest, maybe, but this time around you are a member of the trustee. How did that feel? What was your emotions during the first meeting? Were you excited? Were you?
Actually, it was not a meeting that I was able to join because it was just an informal meeting. Our meeting will take place, I believe, on November 6th.
Okay.
So we will have the incoming and outgoing members of the Supreme Council.
So, sir, let me take that out then. I'll edit that out. I didn't know you weren't there. So, okay, 3, 2, 1. So, sir, with this virtual meeting, sir, how do you look forward to having a virtual meeting? Especially, I think you will have your first inter Supreme Council meeting on the first week of November. How do you look forward to it? What's your thought about that?
I have some ideas that I'd like to bring up to the meeting and bring out to the meeting for discussions. Obviously, this is a 2-year term, and so we will achieve things one step at a time, if I can say that. And so certainly I'm looking forward to it because I know that everyone else has fresh ideas on how to improve our organization. And so I will listen and I will share my points of view and we'll take it from there.
Now, you, sir, have been in the Supreme Council as a guest, and you've been privy to that information that the general membership are not privy for. I know that you will be in your website, in the election website of the KOR. One of your focus, I think you mentioned on your video, is to have, and maybe a lot of Knights of Rizal are kind of excited about this one particular item that you mentioned about the Knights of Rizal being a part of the being vested in the Philippine government as with RA 646. You were mentioned about availing of funding. Could you, if you could please expound on that?
My idea of seeking funding from the Philippine government was based solely on the fact that we are a creation of Republic Act. As you know, the Knights of Rizal was established by Republic Act 646, signed by President Quirino on June 14, 1951. My sense is that we should be able to speak to, probably have an audience with the Speaker of the House after the elections in May, and discuss, what can be done in order to do the funding of the Knights of Rizal. The point I'm trying to raise here is that if we can get funding from the Philippine government, and that's maybe a big if, then we will be able to sustain some of our projects, and even projects that will entail a lot of expenses. And so my thinking was, and still is, even prior maybe to May elections, because we still do have time, we still have 5 months, we have December until May, probably seek an audience. So hopefully when I get to visit the Philippines, I'll seek that appointment if we can, and explore the possibility of having funding from the Philippine government. Whether that's going to come into fruition or not remains to be seen. But certainly, my point is, if it's a Republic Act established by Philippine Congress, there's nothing wrong with us seeking funding. It depends on how they will look at it, and whether there is a need for a new legislation to supplement it or not. I leave it up to the discussions that we will have with the proper, hierarchy of Congress. We'll see what happens.
You are known to be in close association with Sir Senator Manny Pacquiao, who has a lot of resources, and I don't think he is a knight. Do you think he is a knight? Do you think, sir, that outside uh, uh, public using of public funds, we can, because of our prestige as an organization and our access, and which gives us access to such personalities who have resources. Uh, Endowments could be part of funding big projects in the Knights of Rizal, like for instance the building. I know that that has been because of the pandemic, that has been shelved for a little bit, but there are movement towards building, which would entail a lot of expense for sure.
Well, I'd like to make a distinction. If we're going to a senator in his private capacity as as one who is who gives money out for good causes, that's something else. But as a sitting senator looking to get funding from the Philippine government is another thing. Mm-hmm. And so as far as the building is concerned, the Knights of Rizal, I don't know how best to resolve that, whether we should get private funding from other people and make it a joint project, or seek the government funding and have it built as a government building. I don't know, I have to look into that deeper.
Sir, what would be your top priorities in the next 2 years that would be tangible?
Well, you mentioned about my video. Well, one tangible project is to have the global directory, which I mentioned in my video, and I think this is doable. My plan is to have a global directory of all the members of the Knights of Rizal, where we can key into the headquarters website and be able to access information of our brother Knights from all over the world. If you want to know if we have a Knight of Rizal from London, which we know we do, and you want to know who they are, then we would be able to access that through the headquarters website. And I do intend to work on that as a project. And in addition to that, I'd like to have a book-bound directory, a physical directory, printed directory, if I can describe it further. And that directory, which I would personally fund myself out of my own funds, we can sell the directory to the chapters or to individual members, and the proceeds of which will be going to the Knights of Rizal. That's one tangible project that is doable. I will have to explore who, the experts in the tech field who can help us and assist us in doing that or achieving that project.
Very nice.
Okay.
So, sir, at this point, I would like to thank you for allowing me to uh, pick your brains a little bit and know have a glimpse of what the future of the Knights of Rizal is with you being a trustee. I do have one last question, sir. If the, the virtual election, sir, do you think that this was going to be a uh, a part of the Knights of Rizal elections from here on end, meaning even the chapters could avail of it if they can in different ways, in different capacities. And do you think that this would need some sort of tweaking, if I could say so, of the bylaws?
My personal opinion is that we should have this virtual election because it does not only serve those from overseas like us, but also our brother knights from the provinces. Because of the cost of travel of them and probably tenfolds for us from overseas. Now, the rationale behind my idea of sponsoring for this is that we want to enfranchise instead of disenfranchise the Knights of Rizal from selecting or electing the members of the Supreme Council. But we may have to, as you used the word tweak, we might have to look into who really can vote. Because there are many members, and I'm sure you're aware of this, your chapters in Ohio, that there are members who are inactive. And for us to enfranchise every member who doesn't even pay his or his dues would, to me, is not doing justice to the system of electing their own, representatives or our own representatives. And so to tweak the bylaws to qualify those who can vote, I would very much, support that. And obviously, a virtual election, as we have had one, and we knew the results almost instantaneously, by the way. It was effective, efficient, transparent, honest, fair, and the results speak for themselves. And so I think if we were able to do it this year, we should be able to do it in the coming years. It saved us a lot of money. It elected those from overseas. And of course, there were those who did not vote because of some reasons, one of which was the concern about the cost of paying that registration fee. But there is a way to resolve that, in my view, because the way it was presented probably was, was not, well, I wouldn't say it was not appropriate because there was a need for it. But the timing may have been questionable in a way because it came about to most of us, especially those who question it, that in order to vote, you have to pay. And that's really what, that's not really the intention. You are not paying to vote. It just so happens that there are expenses incurred in the preparation and in the actual, election. And so obviously, those costs will have to be borne by the members of our organization. And that is why it came about that we needed to put the registration fee of $30. But looking forward to future, I have things in my mind which I will, eventually share with the Supreme Council on how we can tweak this in order not to, to make others feel and question that they're paying in order to vote. And that is really not what the purpose was of having the $30. You're not paying to vote. No. In other words, you are not enfranchising yourselves, or the Supreme Council is not enfranchising yourself, for so long as you pay the registration fee, or do it look like that? But it's just for the cost of holding the election.
Well, now that we have a lawyer, an international lawyer in the trustees with a wide gauge of perspective, we now know that we will have elections every 2 years. So maybe we can put this in our budget and not be surprised. But of course, this initial election is really a surprise for everyone because nobody really thought about COVID happening. If they could delay the Olympics, they could delay KOR elections, I guess. So, sir, again, thank you very much for this opportunity. Hopefully, this won't be the last. Anytime there's anything in your heart that you want to speak of, you can always, text me, message me, and that you would want to be expounding your thoughts in a platform such as this. So, any last words, sir, before we go?
Well, I just want to thank you again, Sir Alvin, for the opportunity to speak to you and have this conversation, not just with you, but with our brother knights. And your goal of helping this organization to be a better one through the medium that you are espousing right now, which through these interviews, we hope to achieve a better organization than we first found it when we joined. That's really the goal. My goal to become a trustee is to make a difference in our organization, which is our Knights of Rizal, make a difference in the lives of my brother knights, and to make a difference in the lives of the people from around the world, which is ambitious, but the Philippines first and foremost. And so again, thank you.
On that case, sir, nanam nis moriar.
Non omnis moriar.
So I'm
Hindi
gonna
lang pinamamamatay. Right?
thank you, sir. So I'm gonna stop the recording now.